Day and enjoy the early bird rate of just 12,000 kwacha before 20th April 2026. Standard registration is 13,500 kwacha and late registration is 16,500 kwacha from 16th June 2026. Don't miss this premier industry event. Secure your seat today at the IAZ Insurance Conference 2026 in Livingston.
And the winner of the Zambia Radio Excellence Awards is
you get to decide the best in Zambian radio by voting in the Radio Excellence Awards. Vote for your best show, best radio station, and best presenters at www.radioexcellenceawards.com. Vote now. Open until 31st August 2026. Radio Excellence Awards. Celebrating excellence on Zambian radio.
This is Zambia's hottest radio talk show, The Hot Seat, on Hot 87.7 FM.
He has been a vocal advocate for opposition unity and has been critical of the ruling United Party for National Development, UPND government. He has previously held positions including Director of Communications for the Movement for Multi-Party Democracy, MMD, and spokesperson for former MMD President Nevas Mumba. As Zambia We Want Secretary General, Mr. Muhabi Lungu has called for a binding social contract between the opposition and civil society, focusing on constitutional reform, economic equity, and constitutional independence. Mr. Lungu joins me on the hot seat, and I'm your host, Chisha Mulambe. Good morning, Mr. Lungu. Welcome to the hot seat.
Thank you very much, Chisha, for welcoming here. I'm very happy to be here. And thanks for the opportunity. Good morning to the listeners.
Glad you could join us. Now, also live on Kwitu FM 93.3, that is our sister station. Kanele FM 97.7 in Lundazi. Also live on the Hot FM Zambia Facebook page. Go ahead and leave a comment, and we will put it to our guest as the show goes on.
The Hot Seat.
Mr. Lungu, you are
Yes.
from the Zambia We Want. Let's get to the elephant in the room.
Okay.
There's been expulsions of Dr. Kapembwa Simbao and party chairperson Auxilian Ponga. What was the reason for the expelling of these two senior officials?
Well, I think first of all, let me say that there has been no expulsion whatsoever. Dr. Kapembwa Simbao is still the flag bearer and the president of Zambia We Want, as is Dr. Ponga, the chair, who is the head of the party, as well as myself. And the reason I'm saying this is because the action that has been taken by some members of the NEC, of the NLC, does not have any constitutional backing whatsoever. And even if it had some constitutional backing, they did not follow any form of procedure whatsoever. And we in the Zambia We Want, all of us, including the same people who have signed this so-called termination letter, at the very beginning, we all agreed that we would uphold a party which is institutionalized, which operate by the rules of law, which holds the Constitution as the fundamental document of its operations. And so they should have known that the actions which they wanted to take were not supported by the Constitution. So I think that's the first thing I wanted to say. Obviously, they have provided some reasons as to the reason why they took this action. And I think that we can go into greater detail in this regard. But before we go into those details, Chisha, I just wanted to pose three rhetorical questions, which I think are very important for the audience to keep at the back of their minds as we discuss this matter. And these are the following. As I said, they are rhetorical questions. Each member is allowed to churn it in their mind. The first question is this. Why is this action happening now by our colleagues? And you know, they released the letter one day after the We Are One Alliance for the Fourth Republic held a press conference at which they unveiled the team, additional members of the team, and unveiled Kapembwa Simbao as the official flag bearer for the alliance. A day later, our colleagues released this letter and circulated widely all over. I was getting phone calls from far and wide. And the question is, is this a coincidence or is it intended? And if it is intentional, what was the purpose of it? And I would like the listeners to hold that and keep it at the back of their minds. Secondly, which is part of the first question, the initiation of signing this petition, which they are calling, started a week after we held the elections, which were superintended over by the Council of Elders, at which Kapembwe Simbao won the alliance presidency, and I won the Secretary General of the presidency. A week after that, our colleagues then began to work on this petition, and we knew they were working on it because they were going around calling members to sign this petition, and several members refused, and they were even balloted to say, why are you doing this? And why are you doing this thing at this time? We've just won, as Zambia We Want has just won, a 7-party endorsement. Why are you doing this? In whose interest are you doing it? Nothing. So we knew. So that's the first question. The second question is this. I want to ask in whose interest this action is in. Because let us even assume, Shisha, that they had the constitutional provisions, which they don't, and I'll go into that. Let us assume that they were really aggrieved by some issue which I did, or Kapembwe Simbao did, or even the chairperson did. Why would anyone undertake a situation like this when you are just literally 6-7 weeks away from Parliament being dissolved and we're going into an electoral process? Why would anyone, in whose interest? Is this in the interest of the Zambia we want? Or is it in the interest of somebody else? And I want the audience to really assess this. Even if they were to remove the three of us, what then for the Zambia we want? Are they constitutional provisions and even the time for them to come up with another candidate who they will sell 6 weeks before Parliament is dissolved? And I think it's a fair question. The third question, which I would like the audience to assess as we discuss this matter, could it be that the objective of this is not the Zambia we want? Could it be that the objective of this is in fact the alliance? Okay, because some of our colleagues who have signed this petition, from even before we had elections in October, were completely and totally against the issue of an alliance. They made it very clear that they were against the alliance. However, they were not in the majority. The majority of the members of the Zambia we want were fully in support of the alliance. In fact, they were so supportive of the alliance that we put it in our constitution. And if you permit me, I can read you the article in the constitution.
Please.
Yeah.
Please.
So this is I'm waiving this. This is a party constitution of the Zambia we want. And in all these other issues, I will refer to maybe 2 more articles in the constitution so that you can understand. So I will go to page 77 and Article 81, and I will read 2 provisions of it. So 81:1 says, the party may enter into alliances with other political parties on such terms and conditions as shall be determined by the National Leadership Council. Article 2 says, in the event that the party enters into an alliance, the party may, through a decision of the National Leadership Council, resolve to support a presidential candidate and or a running mate from another political party for any election for president and or vice president of the Republic of Zambia. This is in our constitution. And this constitution was approved and it was launched publicly and we've been circulating it widely. And this is proof that the majority of the members of the Zambia we want in the NEC and the general membership have always been supportive of alliance, to the extent that we took a decision that if we go to an alliance and our presidential candidate who we've selected does not emerge as winner, that we will support the other one who has emerged winner. So at the Council of Elders facilitated conference, if Kapembwe Simbao had not won, we were compelled by our own constitution to support whoever had won at that convention. Now, it didn't only end with the constitution. Before we went to the Council of Elders, and even before we went to Waza, a National Leadership Council meeting was called in which we sought permission from the National Leadership Council as per constitution as to whether we should participate in these elections that were going to be done by WOZA and eventually by the Council of Elders. And the documents, which you mentioned some of them, the social contract and others, as rough drafts, were presented to the National Leadership Council in order for them to go through and to approve whether we should do so. Because, as I said, there was a possibility that our flag bearer would not emerge the winner. So this was a major decision. There is no way that I, as Secretary General, or Simbao, or Dr. Ponga would have taken that decision alone. It was deliberated within the NLC, it was passed within the NLC, and Dr. Kapembwe Simbao signed it in the presence of members of the NLC at a meeting we held at Lutibam University.
This is to do with joining another political
that is to
organization.
do, not joining, because joining is already provided for in the alliance, and that decision had already been taken much earlier in the NLC. This one had to do with actually participating in the elections of an alliance and facing the possibility that our flag bearer might not be the victor. So we wanted to make sure that there was no equivocation on that matter before we go to this vote. And I am telling you, and you can verify, we held an NLC meeting, and we had more than a quorum there. The matter was deliberated and it was agreed on. Now, the difficulty with some of our colleagues who have signed this, and I guarantee you, Achisha, that I'm telling you the 100% truth. The difficulty is that 90% of our colleagues who've signed this, and I will not mention them by name, maybe with the exception of 3, okay? 90% of our colleagues who have signed this have not attended a single meeting of the National Leadership Council since we had elections in October. After they lost, after their presidential candidate lost, they vowed that they would do everything possible to ensure that we do not meet quorums of the NLC so that the party could be paralyzed so that it couldn't work. Every meeting we've held, and we've held 4 in the last 6 months, National Leadership Council meetings, we've surpassed the required number of the quorum dictated to by the Constitution. And they have deliberately stayed away because there was a plan that they should ensure that the party doesn't operate. And the reason for this?
A plan by who?
By people.
Who are these people?
Yeah, okay. So
because it sounds like you're talking about a shadow organization of people who plan to stifle the operations of your party. But who are these individuals? These
are members of the National Leadership Council. And you know, the National Leadership Council is the management, it's the second highest organ of the party according to the Constitution. So the highest one is the Congress. And in between, there is a National Leadership Council which really superintends on the day-to-day actions of the party until you have another Congress. Then you have a management committee, which is composed of executive members of the party. Now, what I'm referring to is the National Leadership Council, which is the second highest organ. Now, when we came from the Congress, and we closed the Congress on the 2nd of October, 2024, we elected 34 members of the National Leadership Council. Those members who predominantly supported by Ernest Mwansa, who lost to Kapembwe Simbao, vowed that they would not participate in the activities of the party. And these are the people I'm referring to. These, their signatures, I can give you a copy of this so that you can read the names if you so wish yourself, you know, because I don't want to be accused that I'm being quarrelsome, unnecessarily quarrelsome. I'm going to only refer to names which I think I have to mention them. So those names that are there all have position within the 34-member executive, which we elected at the Congress, and predominantly supported by Ernest Mwansa. And because by Ernest Mwansa lost to Kapembwe Simbao, they vowed that they would not participate in the activities of the party.
So you're alleging that these group of people were aligned to a candidate, and when that candidate didn't win the election, they pretty much changed their interest in the party.
Yeah, well, I'm not alleging, it's a fact. And it's a fact because 3 weeks after the NLC meeting, 3 weeks after the Congress, we had an NLC meeting. And all of them did not come with the exception of 2 of them. And one of the persons who came to that meeting was the vice chairman of the party, Mr. Harrington Kanema, who is the leader, who is the one who is pushing this. And in the meeting that we held in the leadership, the NLC, the first meeting, my older brother, Mr. Kanema, brought an issue to the NLC for discussion. We agreed as a NLC that we would discuss his matter, and his matter was that he had raised two issues with the elections. One of the issues was to do with the electoral process itself. The other one was to do with an item which he felt aggrieved as a result of an agreement he says we took before the electoral process. And when these matters were submitted to the NLC and they were being discussed, the quorum of the NLC then disagreed with both of his positions. And we can look at these matters if you so wish. In that meeting, my elder brother, Mr. Kanema, was so angry that the majority of his fellow members in the NLC disagreed with him that he stormed out of the meeting. The first meeting, he stormed out of the meeting with a threat and a declaration.
What was the threat?
The threat was, if you don't acquiesce to my demands, these two demands, which we'll explain, that I, as the former Secretary General of the Zambia We Want, and by Ernest Mwansa, as the former president of the Zambia We Want, we will never participate in ensuring that there's a change of office bearer at the Registrar of Society. Because as you know, the names that are at the Registrar of Society, which were facilitated by the previous names that were there who gave the party to them called Z, is by Ernest Mwansa, Wakanema, and 8 others. And the two are very important in terms of changing the names, because you need signatories at the Registrar of Society of those who have left the office bearer. So his threat was that Ernest Mwansa and him would never allow for a change of the names of the office bearer. And Chisha, till today, as I speak to you, I, as Muhabi Lungu, as Secretary General who was elected at a Congress which was live on TV, and on other streaming services, my name is not at the Registrar of Society because Ernest Mwansa and Mr. Kanema have refused, okay? On no clear explanation. Today, the President, Ernest Simbao, who won clearly and openly, and the chairperson of the party who won clearly, are not at the Registrar of our society because our two colleagues in particular have refused to facilitate the change of names, okay? And this is not, it's not conjecture, it's a fact. You can call Mr. Kanema and you can call Mr. Mwansa, and they will tell you that they have refused, okay? And they've got reasons for saying why they've refused. Secondly, all of the members of the previous Z, which later transferred into the Zambia We Want, all of them have refused to participate in the change of office bearer at the Registrar of Society. I have called them individually and severally, as they say, to understand why they are refusing. They have refused to meet me, my brother. One of them had a meeting, oh, let's meet at Manda Hill. On the day I was meeting, as I was about to start off from my house to go, he calls me to say, oh, I've got an emergency. The other lady, the same. I engaged the services of other colleagues to see whether we can meet them. They have entirely and completely refused to name. All these people a significant number of these people who are on this list are signatory. Now, so what I'm saying, Chisha, is from the time we had elections in October, in which some people won, some positions, others people lost, the majority of these who have signed this letter have not been involved in party activities. Many of them have not attended not even a single meeting, with even no respect to me as SG to send me an apology. 1 or 2 have sent apologies, but we knew that they were not going to come because they had a resolution that they are going to make it impossible for us to function. And we have functioned, okay? Now, according to our constitution, this one, and I will send it to you so that you can read it. If a member of the National Leadership Council misses 3 consecutive meetings without an apology, you cease to be a member of the NLC. And I have not, as Secretary General, executed that. I have continued to send them notices.
Why have you not done that?
Because, my brother, I have experience. I have been in elections in UNIP. I have been in elections in the MMD. And I know that when people lose positions or the person they were supporting loses, that there is a lot of injury and pain. And what people do is find excuses as to why they should not accept those people who have won. So we gave it a lead time to try and be able to see whether we can convince our colleagues and give them time to get over the injury of losing. And to get over the injury of saying, oh, some people lied to me. Because, unfortunately in Zambian politics, there is this belief that if I come to you, Chisha, and say, look, I'm going to stand for Member of Parliament for Lusaka Central, can you support me? Whether you support me or not, Chisha, the chances that most Zambians will tell you, Mr. Lungu, you are the greatest. In fact, you are the best. Kulibe winango. Okay? And very few people will tell me the truth that, no, me, I won't vote for you because me, I'm supporting that others. So sometimes in these elections, people walk in an election feeling 100% confident that they are going to win because all of the delegates have assured them that they will vote for them. You go there and you lose and you feel very betrayed, okay? And you become very injurious. So, as I was saying, I was giving it time. Some of my colleagues in the party have blamed me for allowing this situation to escalate to this level. And I said to them, look, we have to be able to try and to be reconciliatory, but this is what has transpired, and even now that they have done that, I am still, Dr. Kapemba Simbao and Dr. Ponga are still prepared to see whether they are either elders or people with some stature who can help us reconcile with our colleagues. The Zambia We Want was an idea, a beautiful idea, of an institutionalized political party that does not belong to an individual. And we need to save it. For those of us, even if we will fail to get our names at the Registrar of Society before the elections, fortunately we have got a provision in the alliance where Simbao can stand on the ticket of another political party as long as it's sponsored by that political party, because that is the alliance agreement. Okay? Fortunately, we have that outlet. So if there is any legal action that has to be taken, we might be able to take it after the elections.
Is that the way forward? Because Zambians are looking at this and thinking this is a mess. Is this something that, is this a political party we can trust?
Precisely.
That can't even handle its own internal issues? How are they going to handle government?
That is the reason why I was saying to you that we have tried. We've really, really tried. And I can read you another constitutional provision, which I think is very important in this regard. And this is a constitutional provision which looks at the Board of Trustees. It's Chapter 5. It's page 68 in this constitution. It's Chapter 5, Board of Trustees and Party Stalwarts Committee. We provided for a process of arbitration, that if we have a dispute and a disagreement within the party, that rather than going to the courts first or going to the media, that we undertake this process of arbitration. And we have tried to reach out to the colleagues. There have been meetings between myself, Kapemba Simbao, and the chair, with Ernest Mwansa in his office at his law firm, together with Harrington Kanema. There was a state council lawyer who volunteered, the person who we had procured his services to superintend writing of this constitution, a former president of LAS, a former attorney general, and a former solicitor general, who volunteered because he was part of the process when we hired his services to ensure that this was a proper constitution, has gone out to reach out to them and arbitration and to see whatever they want. All of those issues have come to nothing. And even then, we have never gone to the public to say that this is what has transpired. In respect to this, the following. Article 71.3, any leadership dispute which makes running of the party unattainable in any form shall be considered a constitutional crisis. Okay? Article 4, in the event that a constitutional crisis occurs in the party subject to the dispute shall not take out legal action in the course of law, but shall escalate the dispute to the Board of Trustees through the Secretary General. Okay? And we've tried all of these with our colleagues. The Board of Trustees has not been fully established. And one of the reasons it has not been fully established is because they have made every effort since we had the elections to ensure that the party does not operate normally, okay? And we have tried to reach out to them, nothing, So I have decided that let me now be able to answer in the general public, okay? Together with my colleagues, because they have taken it to the public. And before I executed that discussion, I had to bring it to the attention of my colleagues, senior members of the political party, the president, the chairperson, the deputy SG, and others, to see whether we should do this. And all of them approved it and agreed. And we, as you can see, this is the second show that I'm doing, and the president has not yet come out, and the chairperson has not yet come out, because one of the bone of contention of this group is the election of the president and the elections of the chair. You know, so we said, look, since they're the primary target from the day they won elections, maybe for the moment let them stay out until I clear some of these issues as SG, and then they will be able to speak, and other members of the National Executive Council will also come out to show their support for the leadership.
Mr. Lungu, you've been talking about external forces being the reasons as to why this is happening. Do you really believe this is state-sponsored to stifle your operations?
Look, I have never said that this is state-sponsored. The questions I raised was for the audience to make consideration. And as I said, why is this thing happening? Why did this process of trying to remove the president illegally?
You said they lent themselves to being used by known state elements.
Yes.
That's what you said.
Yeah, no, that is what I wrote in the statement. I thought you were referring to...
No, I mean, we're talking about this issue from
okay, broadly.
From a broad perspective.
All right,
and
so...
You think there's state elements involved in this?
No, I don't think that there are state elements involved in this. We know that there are state elements involved in it because we have information at a very high level as to which two. We even know the names of which two have been meeting with certain individuals that they have been compromised. We know. But you know...
How long have you known this?
Because I'm telling you that...
How long have you known it?
No, we've known it for some time. But...
What have you done about it?
But how do you do it? Because when you receive information... Look, when I was working for Dr. Kaunda many years ago, and he had just left office at the time, and I had the opportunity of being schooled in intelligence issues and et cetera, et cetera. And one of the issues that the people who were schooling me in this said was that in intelligence, you receive maybe 100 pieces of information about what is going on. So you may receive an information about all sorts of things. And they say the chances are that 99 of those 100 pieces of information are probably not entirely accurate, but only one is accurate. Okay, so there may be an information that, President Kaunda is going to be shot at when he goes into Kawe, which if you know your history, he was shot at, okay? But you don't know whether that information is correct or not. So what you do in intelligence is you try to verify all of the 100 pieces of information to ascertain which one has got the accuracy and dismiss which ones they don't. When we received this information, we did our due diligence with the people we know in the intelligence services and others and everywhere else to ascertain where such a meeting took place, where ABCD was accusing of doing it. And then you watch also their behavior, okay? You watch also their behavior. But in this particular show, I didn't want to go to that direction. That is why I only raised the question, because sometimes there is what they call circumstantial evidence. All of this time, 6 months, this matter remained within the armpit of the party. 1 week after Dr. Simbao is elected as president, I'm elected as president, they begin the process. Is that a coincidence? 1 day after Simbao is unveiled by his colleagues of the alliance is done, the same following day, they release a letter saying that, the three of us has been fired. And the reasons and justifications in the letter are all false, and they are not accurate.
Are you ready to name those two individuals?
No, I cannot name it because it would be difficult for me.
You're still doing your investigation?
No, I'm not doing my investigation, we know. But look.
So after you've done your due diligence, you're sure that these two individuals are sponsored by the state?
We know for a fact.
To stifle your political party?
We know for a fact. I will not mention them. All I wanted, that is why I raised these questions, because there are some things which, even if I accuse someone here, they will deny it. Okay? And they will say, give me the evidence. When people are going to be on the take, It's not very easy to prove.
Will there be repercussions for
no,
this?
No, look, this is politics.
What's the next move?
No, the next move for us is merely to try and explain to the public that what has been done is not legal. The process were not. Now, let me just go to another provision, okay? In accordance to my statement, I had said that there is nowhere in our constitution which gives the power of anyone to terminate the chairman of the party, the SG of the party, and the president as a bunch. It's not possible. There is no such provision. There is a provision which is in relation to the president alone. And the reason why there's a provision in relation to the president, because all of us in the Zambia We Want had said we didn't want a super president. We wanted a president who could be sanctioned by his peers and his colleagues. So in that regard, and because our president is not the head of the party, we specifically put a provision in the constitution. There is no such provision to remove the chairperson, Dr. Ponga. None. There is no such provision to remove me as Secretary General. As you know, the head of the party is the chairperson. I am the chief executive. But let me just read you the process of how to remove a president. And it's removal, not termination, not removing him from the party as they have purported to have done. Let me read to you. Article 71. Powers, functions, and duties of the board. Oh, sorry, I'm reading the wrong one. I still was at the position, yeah. So this is on page 44 of the party. I've circulated this. This is Article 43. Procedure for removal of the president. Okay, number 1. Removal of a president shall be commenced, not removed, shall be commenced by a petition signed by at least 50% of the National Leadership Council members and presented to the chairperson. Okay, so already even in the first, it is quite clear that there has to be someone to receive a petition. Okay, and that person who received the petition is the head of the party, the chairperson. What they've done is bunched her when there's no power. Number two, the petition shall clearly specify the allegations leveled against the president and must be served on the president within 3 days from the date that the petition is presented to the chairperson. So you present the petition to the chairperson assesses it to see whether it is worthy, then the president is served. Okay? And there's a reason why the president is served. Number 3, the president shall answer in writing to the petition within 10 days of receipt of the motion. Okay? That is the rules of natural justice. You just don't go in the street and terminate someone without giving them the due process of the law or natural justice, which we vowed in the Zambia We Want that we would follow the rules. Number 4, the chairperson shall then be obliged to call for a meeting of the National Leadership Council to discuss the matter within 14 days of receipt of a petition, and the National Leadership Council shall be convened within 21 days from the date that the chairperson calls for the meeting. You see the power of the chairperson in here. You can't remove anybody without the involvement of the chair. And in order to remove this, they decided to bunch the chair, who cannot be removed except by a Congress. And it is clear in this constitution. I'll read one more provision, just one more provision. Provision number 5. At the close of the deliberations, the National Leaders Council members shall vote by secret ballot on the motion to remove the president, and the motion will be passed only if 2/3 of the members vote in favor of removing the president. This is the constitution of the Zambia We Want. No meeting of the Leadership Council was called to table this matter. The chairperson of the party, Dr. Ponga, did not call for such a meeting. I did not circulate as Secretary General and Chief Executive of the party. I did not circulate any circular calling for this meeting in consonant with the chair. And if Harrington Kanema, with the colleagues who've signed, held a meeting, they should tell us where they got the powers to call for the meeting, according to this election, where they held the meeting, and let them produce the minutes of that meeting. So we can ascertain which clause of the Constitution they used. The fact is that they didn't. We know that Mr. Kanema and someone hiding behind the screen, and I can tell you, I can name them, but I won't name them today. I'll name them tomorrow on another show. The person who's behind the screen, we had a meeting with them in his office at his law firm, and we asked him, the former president of the party, okay? The chairman of the party asked him, my brother, why do you not want to help us change the office bearers? We won. You know what his response was? But how does us not changing the names at the registrar of society impede your operation of the party? And the chairperson said to him, but Ernest, there was an election. You lost the election. And Mr. Kanema sitting there, you lost an election, a fair election, you know. It is the law that we must change the office bearer. He refused, completely refused. Then I said to him, but former president, as of now, the only person who has written a petition, no, sorry, not a petition, a complaint of all of you is Harrington Kanema. He's the only one. And in the petition which he wrote, he did not say he was speaking on your behalf or that he was speaking on behalf of any of the other colleagues that have not been attending meetings. Nobody. We only know a grievance made by Mr. Kanema. And you did not. So, if you have a grievance to justify why, as former president, you are refusing to have the office bearer changed, can you write to us so that we assess your grievance? He refused. I guarantee you, my brother, you can call him and ask him whether what I'm saying is a lie. He refused. I will never write a letter. So I said, my brother, as SG, in which organization do we operate by verbal complaints? I have to know. So if you have refused to write what your grievances are so that we can assess them, I will write you a letter saying, can you please itemize what your grievances are? He says, I will not read your letter. A lawyer. This is a lawyer. And I hope that you can invite him here so that you can ask him these questions in the presence of the audience, okay? And that if he refuses, invite me back one day, we can sit here and discuss this matter.
Yeah.
Okay?
I want to look at one of the points that were raised in this letter. You are mentioned here as failing to mobilize the party from the time of elections in October 2025 to date, despite having made promises that you would mobilize membership in Lusaka and Copperbelt once elected. Have you failed to mobilize
Well, I think
the
it would have
party
been
in Lusaka and the Copperbelt?
Yeah, I think it would have been helpful if they had itemized my failure. You know, I can tell you that I think it was, today is what? Today is Wednesday. I think it must have been on Friday. Today's Tuesday. I think it must have been in Friday. I was in Bauleni with the Honorable Sinyangwe, who is chair lady, Faustina Sinyangwe, who is chair lady for women's movement and gender in our party. And we had a meeting in Bauleni with our members. I can tell you that I think the previous day I was in Mandevu. You know, I can tell you that 3 weeks ago with President Simbao, we were in Munali. I can tell you that a larger group of us, about a month ago, were on the Copperbelt meeting all of our district leadership. I think we had 7 out of the 8 districts, of the 10 districts on the Copperbelt come to that meeting. Because we are not a Kantemba party which is preoccupied with showing videos of how great we are, we do not take videos of these and start flashing them all over. We have been advised by Gen Z, our Gen Z group, that you have to start doing that because that is how the Gen Z are convinced that you exist. What we were preoccupied with was building the structure of the party. We have a structure of the party in the Eastern Province, I can tell you that. You know, we have the structure here, but at every juncture that we have tried to grow the party, our colleagues have started to circulate rumors to make it virtually impossible for us to organize.
So you're saying you've been doing the job, but there's just no evidence of it?
No, but there is evidence.
Taken any videos and haven't posted them online.
The evidence, the proof of the pudding is not in showing people. You know, there are people who are very much alive on the social media. But when they go to the elections, all of those groups that they were showing on the social media amount to nothing, okay? Our job as the Zambia We Want is not to create a facade of growth. Our job and our priority is to ensure that the party grows.
Are you growing?
Yeah. No, of course we are growing. We are growing tremendously. And you will be able to see, but we are growing with a view that we knew that we did not have enough time. That is the reason why we agreed on alliances. And now that we are in an alliance with 7 other political parties, we will leverage all of the membership of the United National Independence Party, of the United Liberal Party, of the New Heritage Party, of the People's Organization Party. We are 7 of us, including the independent movement that Yusuf Dodia has brought. And this is an acknowledgement because we know that no single political party alone at this point, no matter who you are, you will not be able to vanquish the UPND in the next election by yourself. And we have been very categorical on that. And rather than for us to pretend and show people that we've got millions of people when you are even using some people, there is a political party, and I'm sorry if I'm going to offend anyone, but I'm saying fact. There is a political party out there that took a Barclays a match. You know, there was a, I think it's not Barclays, what is this? APSA, marathon. And they put it on their page and said this was their people. And there are a lot of people on social media doing things like that. And so on the ground, they are not there. What we are doing is the opposite. But because people have demanded, and our young people have told you, have said to us, maybe you need to show, we've also decided to make an amendment. So in the coming weeks, the meetings that we will be holding, which we've been holding, whether they are of 5 people or 10 people or 200 people, we will also now be taking videos and showing on social media, because it looks like that is the grand norm. That if you don't do that, then you are not growing.
Do you not have young people in your party that could have given you that information?
No.
The Gen Zs connect with
but this is what I'm saying
more on social media?
This is what I'm saying, Chisha, that our young people, in the beginning, we convinced them that we didn't want to play to the gallery, because that was not our intention. Our intention was to grow the party. And as you can see from some of the pictures that you've seen, we have, probably with the exception of the PF and the UPND, which is in government, we have got people in our party who have been in government before, who have been in private industry, successful people who are clean and have not stolen anybody's money, okay? And we have presented those to people, so we are not dealing with riffraffs or people who are appointed. And even worse, even more important, Kapembwa Simbao was not self-appointed. He didn't declare himself to be the latest Messiah or the latest savior of Zambian people. He was elected, as I was. And as of now, Chisha, Kapembwa Simbao is the only president of any union now who's been twice elected. He was first elected by the Zambia We Want at a convention which was superintended over by a lawyer appointed by the electoral, by the Law Association of Zambia. Okay? I had nothing to do with the elections, and neither did George Chilumanda, as accusations have come in the press. I had nothing to do with it. We had an independent electoral commission, and Kapembwa Simbao won. Okay? Then we went to a larger group of people, spearheaded by the Council of Elders. Okay? And they chose CPD with Neil Simtani. It's called Center for Policy Dialogue, as the vehicle by which that conference was. I am not a member of CPD, neither is George Chilumanda, neither is Dr. Ponga or Kapembwa Simbao. We're not. We went there as one political party out of 7. We had nothing to do. People from FODEP were asked to conduct the elections. At that election, Kapembwa Simbao emerged winner. 2 processes where he was not involved. And I think that the public and the journalists should give us the due respect for having conducted elections which are free and fair and open to the public.
Mr. Lungu, is it fair to say the UPND are the only stable party in the country right now, looking at all these happenings?
Look, the fact of the matter is that the same UPND, which you are saying are the most stable party, have been involved in creating an environment by which it is nearly impossible for opposition political parties to operate. They are the ones. What is going on in the PF, on the day that, and I want the public to consider this, okay? On the day that our colleagues circulated this letter, it was on the 27th of March, on Friday. On that same day, there was a court matter in the High Court regarding who owns the PF or who is the leader of the PF. On that same day, the party of the PF was given to Mao Sampa and declared that what Mao Sampa did was correct, and trying to nullify the elections which were held just a week earlier in the PF. I don't think that that was entirely deliberate, okay? 2, on that same day, when our colleagues were circulating this letter, Brian Munduvile was appearing at the anti-corruption being warned and cautioned. So you have one, PF1, the Tonse Alliance at the ACC, 2, the PF Pamozi Alliance having an issue against them, and the We Are One Zambia Alliance having one of its members being provoked. This is why I'm saying, if you are fair-minded, you will have to think about the questions I raised at the beginning of the program to ensure that you know that there is an external force that is doing this. I believe, and many of us believe, that the UPND and President Hakainde want to have a situation that happened in Tanzania, where there is no credible candidate on the ballot. And every effort is being made by the so-called stable UPND to ensure that they destabilize all the other threats.
That's a very serious accusation.
It is a serious accusation. But
if Mr. Brian Munduvile is being asked questions by the ACC over allegations of something that happened in the past, they have all the rights to do that.
Yes,
when it comes to the issues to do with Mao Sampa and his cohorts, that's been in the courts.
Yeah, okay.
How is the UPND's hand being thrown into this? And even with your party, you've refused to mention the 2 individuals.
Chisha.
But that's just hearsay.
No, I hear you, and you have a point. But it's not hearsay. It's called circumstantial. In court, of course, you can't convict somebody using circumstantial evidence.
That's usually not admissible.
Yeah, it's not admissible. Yeah. But we all know that in many cases, it does filter, in the decisions that they are made in the courts. In the U.S. system, they've got a jury system. And the jury system, when you call the jury, they hide them and try to restrict them from public opinion so that they are not making the decision as a jury on the basis of all the speculation that is being done outside. And the reason they do that is because they know that if they're exposed to the speculation of the public, it will affect the decision the jury makes, When the Supreme Court are making adjudications about sensitive matters of the public, they consider what is happening in the country. So you cannot say that circumstantial evidence is not considered by all of us. It's the only basis. You can't litigate it because we are not in court. But it does have a bearing on the decisions we make. Now, if you say, let me just deal with the issue of Brian Munduvile. Please remind me to go back to the grievances that Wakanema have in this letter so that people can understand why these things is very disheartening. But let me just answer the question you've raised. I am not in a position to start judging Munduvile at this point, And I think that it would be disingenuous of me to suggest that the ACC don't have the right to call any one of us for investigation, But these matters of Munduvile have been in the public for the last 5 years. Why should it be that the ACC should find it important to call Brian Munduvile 6 weeks before Parliament is dissolved and we are going into an electoral campaign? Do you think that that is fair? What were they doing all this? Now, of course, they will tell you that no, we are investigating. But these matters... Which
would be a fair point, isn't it?
It may be a fair point, but...
Should they stop their work because of an election?
Yes, it's a fair point, but you also must admit that it is suspicious. No, I am prepared to consider that it's a fair point. But I also want you to consider that if the SEC had a valid matter, and I'm not saying it's invalid, they should have done it 2 years ago when Brian Munduvile was not a candidate. But this issue has become an emotive issue after Brian Munduvile wins the presidency of Tonse. Then it becomes material. Now, we are not children, Let me go to the second issue of Mao Sampa.
Are you connecting 2 dots that may not even be connected here? Because it's the ACC doing their job.
Have you said what you said?
How is it connected to politics? They, like you've said, they will tell you they've been investigating, and now they have more enough reason to call him in for questioning. And Mr. George Chisanga says there was a forensic audit that was done and there was no issues. So if there are no issues, what's the problem with the ACC asking questions there?
Yeah.
It means this won't go anywhere, right?
Look, let me be very careful with what I say, because we in the Alliance, we in the Zambia We Want, we in the Alliance are 100% sure that one of the biggest problems in this country is corruption. And one of the issues that we have made front and center in terms of trying to market Simbao is we're saying that he's a very, very clean guy. He's held 7 portfolios of cabinet, deputy minister 4, and 3 full ministers under 3 different presidents. And one of the issues, and the ministries he held, works and supply, health, transport and communication, are all ministries which many ministers steal from, okay? And we have said to people, this guy is very clean. He's handled very powerful ministries. You can't compare him to many of the people standing for president. Go and investigate. So we're very strong on the issues of corruption. However, fighting for corruption must have a cardinal principle, that you are not using the fight for corruption for it to be turned into persecution, okay? You cannot use the fight for anti-corruption to persecute others. Use it to prosecute, and you have to be fair. And the connection that I'm making, Shisha, is that Munduvile, Honorable Brian Munduvile, was not an issue before he became a presidential candidate. And these issues have been now brought to the fore after. If you can't fail to see that connection, then I would just, let me just say, if an individual cannot see to fail that connection, then I would say, well, I think I see the world from a different plane, okay? And as you said it may be so, but it also may be so. It may not be so, but it also may be so. And an intelligent person considers both possibilities. If there is an accusation that Muhabi Lungu was caught cheating on his wife, okay? Anyone who hears that accusation must consider that there is a possibility that it is true.
Would you be okay if the ACC went for members of the UPND 6 months away from an election? Would you be okay with that?
No, I would not be okay with it. I wouldn't. I really wouldn't. We have been told by many news organizations that 10 ministers were being investigated. For more than 3 years, the argument was that because they have not been, the investigations have not concluded, we cannot even name them. And if all of a sudden the UPND now starts naming those MPs, let's assume Gary Nkombo. Let me talk about my friend Gary Nkombo, and he is a friend. I've known him since we were at the university together. Gary Nkombo has just been removed from a position in the UPND. I don't talk to him of now because I'm very careful, because people now, you talk to Gary Nkombo, they will accuse him to be a member of the opposition. So I haven't met him or talked to him for a while. But Gary Nkombo has been fired from something. There is a position where they want to remove him from standing in Mazabuka. I can guarantee you that if Gary Nkombo decided to put up a fight, and he's not fighting, but I know Gary Nkombo well, because Gary Nkombo is a fighter. He has chosen, from my assessment, that he's not going to fight this. But if Gary Nkombo decided to fight this, I can guarantee you that the reason why he was fired from the cabinet would all of a sudden turn out to be that he was corrupt, when they told us he has nothing to do with corrupt. So if they started prosecuting Gary Nkombo today in the UPND, I would come to the conclusion that he's being prosecuted to shut him up and to stop him from fighting. And I would not be surprised if he's already been threatened that, Baba, if you start fighting, we're going to come after your throat. That's how politics works in Africa, and we can't deny that. So let me move on. I just want to move on from Mamundumile to the other question you asked. You asked about Mao Sampa having the, this decision we know. This decision, which was delivered on 27th March, has been postponed for the last chakuti, maybe 1 year. Every time it comes to the court, they would postpone it. And the decision was made barely 7 weeks before Parliament is being dissolved. And this particular decision was made after the PF Tonse Alliance, the PF Pamozi went and elected Makebi Zulu Then the decision is made that no, in fact, it doesn't belong to Given Luinda, who was superintending over the elections of Makebi Zulu, but let's give it to Miles. That is not a coincidence, my brother. That is called manipulation.
So
okay?
Are you saying the judiciary is
No, that is not what I've said. I have said that...
Because you're saying these decisions are being made to stifle, and I've used the word stifle quite a bit today in my questioning. It's a methodical approach to stifling the opposition.
I am saying that there is circumstantial evidence for a person who is thinking and analyzing this to see beyond the veil, the cloak. There is more than sufficient circumstantial evidence for a person to conclude that there is more than what meets the eye. And we make decisions like that as human beings all the times, okay? Thirdly, you talked about the issue of them circulating this thing against us, saying that they have removed it. And I said to you, why should this come a day after we launch? Why should this thing come after Kapembo Simbao wins the second time? Okay? Now, all of these is material data for a person who is being fair and honest to understand that there is something going on here beyond the eye. So that is what. But I wanted, Chisha, if you will allow me, to be fair to Mr. Harrington Kanema and to be fair to my colleagues who we are still prepared to reconcile with should they so want. If they want, we can even call a meeting, as I have been inviting them all the time to the meeting where they can bring this.
How are you willing to sit down with people who you say may be compromised by external elements?
Yeah, because it's not all of them. You know, it is not all of them.
So those two that you mentioned are excluded from.
No, they can. Even them, we can invite them because look, let me tell you one of my principles which I shared, and please remind me to get back to this. One of the principles, it is my principle in life, and this is the principle which I have come to learn through observation, and I have learned that mischief operates best in the shadows. I've said it before on this program, that evil proliferates in the darkness. The best way in which to reduce mischief and to try and mitigate or reduce the venomous impact of evil is to cast a big, big light and illuminate the environment so that everything is operated in the day. Even a spy who has been procured and hired by others, if you are operating a transparent organization, they will find it very difficult to operate. Okay? They will find it difficult. Spies and traitors find an environment of secrecy, okay, shadowy, and darkness. That is where they best operate. If a person comes to you, my brother, if I, as Muhabi Lungu, comes to you and says, Chisha, guess what? Guess what, Chisha? You know, that guy there was talking bad about you. He said, you know, Chisha steals money from Hot FM. Chisha does this and this and this. But don't tell them that it's me who told you. At that point, you must know, Chisha, that I'm either a scoundrel's person with no conviction who cannot stand by the fact that somebody told me, or I'm a damn liar. Or I am a damn liar. If you told me this and you are not prepared to say that, then I know that you are a liar. If I come to you that Chisha, Kapemba Simbao was saying you are a thief, and if you call Kapemba Simbao and ask him that Muhabi Lungu is the one who told you this, I will stand there and tell him that you, Mr. Kapemba Simbao, that's what you said. You know, that is truth. So whether they are spies, whether there are people who have been compromised, if we are operating an organization in a transparent manner, their capacity to do damage becomes limited, you know. So we don't mind. We don't mind. We have said to a number of elderly people, help us resolve this issue if you can. If we can't, we will use other methods. If people continue being saboteurs, I, as Secretary General, at that point, must make a decision whether I'm being too kind or whether I must implement the law, the Constitution, to defend the institution. But I wanted to just do one before maybe you open calls. I wanted to just say,
get to the point you wanted to get to,
yeah,
then we can open
I wanted to be fair to Mr. Kanema and the colleagues that he's with about the accusations they've made against the president, against Dr. Ponga and myself. Okay? The first issue that made Mr. Kanema storm out of the meeting which we held was that he was contending that Kapembwa Simbao did not win by 50+1 according to our constitution in the second round. And he was told by the colleagues that that is not correct. Two things. First of all, there is no requirement in the constitution of the Zambia We Want or any other procedure of the second round where there is a requirement of 50+1. In the second round, 50+1 is viable only in the first round when you've got more than 2 candidates. When there are only 2 candidates, the rule of 50+1 does not really account, because it is assumed that if there are only 2 people, one of them will get 50+1. If there are only 2, okay? His contention was that the reason why he did not get 50+1 was because we must count the rejected votes. There is nowhere in the world where you count rejected votes on the basis of calculating a 50+1. Even today, he's still stubborn that we must calculate the rejected votes. If you do not calculate the rejected votes, which is what is standard and norm, you know, Kapembwa Simbao got almost 55% of the vote in the second round, which is not even a requirement. But Mr. Kanema and his colleagues still insist. We have told them, Wakanema, please go to the Electoral Commission of Zambia and find out whether they use rejected votes or what they call invalid votes in the calculation of their percentages. Please go and find out. They've refused. Now, you can imagine the difficulties that it puts us when you cannot reason with someone with a fact. So I leave this out. The second thing that he says is aggrieved is because Dr. Ponga, who stood for the president and lost, then stood for the chairperson of the party and won. According to him, we had made a resolution in the Central Committee that you can't do that, which is not true, and it's not in the Constitution. The only direction which our Constitution says, and I can read it to you, if I can find it quickly. Chairman. Anyway, I will send it to you. It says that if you are chairman of the party, you cannot stand for the position of the president unless you relinquish 2 years before the Congress the position. Because the head of our party is the chairperson, and the chairperson, we didn't want the chairperson to influence the outcome of the election. There is nowhere in a constitution where it forbids a presidential candidate to stand for the chair. None. And I can ask all of you to read our constitution and say whether you will find that provision. And he claims that that is what we had made a decision. When he came to the NLC to be asked as to when this decision was made, he wanted to produce minutes of the last meeting of the NLC, which dissolved itself so that we can give the chance to the Electoral Commission to take place. When people ask him, when were these minutes written? Were they circulated to anyone? Were they approved? Are they signed? He stormed out and said, never will Ernest Mwansa and myself ensure that there's a change of office bearers. So I've explained, and I must say to you, Chisha, that I am disheartened. I am sad, you know. I am bleeding inside that I have to be able to come to the public and discuss these internal matters, which are very simple to discuss because our colleagues have chosen not to keep these matters in the house, but to bring them to the public.
Will you set aside and not contest in this year's election because of all this noise? Will you sit aside and not, take part in the elections this year?
We will take part. As I said,
you feel you're ready?
Yeah?
Are you ready?
Well, we will make ourselves ready. We still have 4 months remaining. I myself, as an individual, I'm considering to stand in Lusaka Central or Lundazi Central. I've not made up my mind. Within the next 2 weeks, I will do my due diligence. I'm leaning towards Lusaka Central because I've stood twice there, okay? And my problem at this point, so that you can understand the gravity of what I'm discussing to you, is that I cannot stand, as of today, I cannot stand from a party which I've been working for the last 2 years. I can't stand. Because who will sign the certificate? I am supposed to sign the certificate to the Electoral Commission of Zambia as Secretary General. Kapembwa Simbao or the chairperson of the thing are supposed to sign. We have people at the register, Mr. Harrington Kanema and Ernest Mwansa, who lost the elections, who are still at the register. You think that they will give me the certificate with the quarrels that we're going through? And even if they were, even if I was to give them the benefit of doubt, it is not correct and legal for me, who was an elected official, to go to a person who lost an election to sign my certificate. I would be lending credibility to an illegality. And we have brought this to their attention, and they don't want. And then they want to come to you and to the public to say that they are Democrats, that they believe in the values of the Zambia we want, that we have to be different, that we are supposed to be the ones who are supposed to hold all the other political parties as a beacon of hope for this country, because we said it was the Zambia we want. And that is the behavior they're doing. So to force me to come on a radio station to begin to divulge things which I'm not supposed to be doing because I want to uphold the truth is annoying. It is extremely annoying, and it is very unfair to me. And they have showed me disrespect. They have showed me complete, and I have not been able to act because I have wanted people to reconcile.
Do you see an end in sight to this?
Well, as I said, as you say, we will try everything possible to participate in these elections. Given us...
Looking at how much time you have.
Given the time that we have, I have hope, and I'm a person of faith. As you know, and I was saying to you, and it's a tragedy that I'm not speaking about our policy frame here, both for the Zambia we want as well as for the Fourth Republic Woza Alliance. When we signed the documents we signed in the Woza Alliance, we signed a number of documents. We signed a program of a minimum program. We signed a social contract, which we want to be signing with all the others. And we also signed an administrative framework for which the organization will go. And we also agreed that we will use the party which wins the presidency. So in an ideal situation, the candidate and the party which we are supposed to be using for the alliance is the Zambia we want. But because our colleagues have denied us that opportunity, it means that the MPs that will stand on the Zambia we want and President Kapemba Simbao will not stand on the Zambia we want because they've denied us, And then they want to say they're doing this thing on behalf of the party. We will have to select now a special purpose vehicle within the alliance of Woza. So in the end, a presidential flag bearer of the Zambia we want will either stand on the ULP ticket, on a New Heritage Party ticket, on a UNIP ticket, or any of the other members of our political party. Because our own colleagues in the political party have so seen it fit that they must bring us down. At Tiwa, we will pull them down. That is very sad. It is exceedingly sad.
We need to get to the phone lines now. Give us a call, 0974-870-877.
Call now and be part of the show. Dial 0974-870-877. The Hot Seat on Hot FM.
Hello, good morning. Hello, good morning.
Good morning, from.
Good morning, what's your name?
Good morning, Mr. Lungu.
Good morning, sir.
What's your name?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. What's your name?
Howard on the line.
Okay, Howard, please go ahead.
Okay, Mr. Lungu, you're speaking so well, but I also feel for you guys, exercise opposition, because what is happening in the country at the moment, I can't even recognize my country. It's like any person just from a political party that will look to be vibrant. Some confusion has to be sent their way, which is not a good thing. And like you said earlier on, some of these things, Zambians are not down. We are able to see that there's an invisible hand somewhere that is causing confusion. But if you are going to be an honest person, you can't stand in an election alone. So my encouragement to you guys, just find what can work for you, and all Zambians are already behind, because we are tired of this thing that is going on. Thank you.
Thank you, Howard. We appreciate your call. 0974-870-877. What's your contribution? Hello, good morning.
Good morning, Mr.
Good morning. What's your name?
Mr. Fresh Charles Simbao on the line. Good morning, Mr. Lungu.
Good morning, Mandela.
Yeah, a quick one. Brother Tisha, for me, I would say I don't have kind words for this development. And what is happening concerning these political parties, Rango, the benefit of the current government. And you can't tell me that the president is not aware about the really happening in the office, the minister register of society. This is in public domain. Even somebody who has not graduated from grade 1 is able to understand, and the president is quiet. I will not point about any junior officer in this case. Let's not, try to massage the president. The president is the head of this and is aware about everything that is happening. And the shame to go to him, because he has the powers to summon the register of society and ask, what is these issues that I'm hearing in the public? So that he understands what is happening, whether the laws have been changed or not. So why should we continue massaging these issues, trying to talk about the officers in these? No, it's the head of state, the president himself, and the state house machinery are the ones that are doing mingalato in these political parties.
So Charles,
nobody else.
You're blaming the president for political parties and the fights that they're having within their own parties.
Because the center is the register of society. The register of society is not outside the government. It is in the arms of the government. So the president knows what is happening in this register of society. The register of society community is not out of the government. It is the hand being used by the government. So why should we put the president off from this? The 5 states are within these political parties, but the person who's supposed to take the role to put these issues to the state is the register of society,
all right,
which
Charles.
is being used.
Charles, we get your point. Thank you so much for calling.
Thank you so much.
All right. 0974-870-877. Let's pick up another one, and then we'll allow Mr. Lungu to respond. Hello, good morning.
Morning, Crumbs.
Morning. How are you doing?
I'm fine, thank you. Sis Chungu from Lusaka. Mr. Lungu, good morning.
Good morning, Wachong.
I'm quiet.
Did you say Chungu or Chongo, please?
Chungu.
Chungu.
Okay.
Please
Yeah, I think just like the other callers have said, Crumbs, I think it's very obvious and clear that there's an invisible hand in the confusion that is happening in these political parties. But all I want to remind the current government, and I know they're listening, is that the greatest opposition that you have are us, the people themselves, us who are going to vote in August. So they can continue with whatever they're trying to do, but obviously he won't stand alone. So whoever will be there, we might as well just go for that person. And I'd like to encourage MPs, let's have more independent MPs, and we'll be able to vote. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Chungu, for your call. So we have Howard, Charles, and Chungu who've called us. Remember, our guest today is Zambia We Want Secretary General, Mr. Muhabi Lungu, who joins us here on the hot seat on Hot 87.7. My name is Chisha Mwambe. I'm your host. Your response, Mr. Lungu.
Yeah, Chisha, I'll be very brief to all of them because I think all the 3 callers agree that there is an invisible hand. There is something beyond the veil, as I said. There's something beyond the veil. So I agree with them. But let me just see the things they said. So Howard talked about standing together. As I've said that, and the way you introduced me, I have been one of those. I'm not the only one. I have been one of the people who have been pushing for an alliance, possibly of one opposition candidate for all of us. I know that won't happen, but we're still pushing towards that. And given with what has happened, I now believe, and this is the position we've taken in Woza for the Fourth Republic. I wish I had time to start talking about the Fourth Republic, is that if we are all just going to have one candidate on the ballot, and if something happens to that candidate on the ballot, then we will have no recourse. So in as much as we are now pushing towards a formation in which we are going to have maybe all support one candidate, we have to consider the possibility that we may have to have maybe 2 other candidates on the ballot, just in case they do any mingalato on the one who is most popular, then all of us can shift to another candidate. So that will require some discussions, and I hope that we as Woza were very open. Now speaking as Secretary General of Woza for the Fourth Republic, we're very open to discuss with the Tonse Alliance. We're very open to discuss with the PF Pamosi Alliance and other alliances which are of goodwill and they want to be able to do this.
Mr. Lungu, just a quick one. There's always this talk of Mingalato when it comes to the current government. Do you not have your own Mingalato that you can play as the opposition then?
No.
Some of the questions that people will ask you.
I will answer this personally. I, as a politician and as a Christian in Holy Week, I don't want to get involved in any Mingalato. I don't.
But isn't that the name of the game when it comes to politics?
No, it is the name of the game if you have no conviction and principles. I will not kill someone because everyone thinks it's okay to kill someone. I have got principles and values which I must be able to abide by as a human being. If everyone in Zambia thinks that it's okay to steal, I cannot say, okay, let me steal because everybody thinks it's okay and I want... No, it's wrong. My conviction tells me it's wrong. I don't want to win a race by using Mingalato. I'd rather win a race because I have convinced the people of Zambia that I will do the best for them.
But if you're a seasoned politician, and if you're convinced that your opponent is using... If you get into a fight and you know the other boxer has taken steroids, isn't that dangerous for you?
Yes, well,
what do you do? What's the counteraction?
Yeah, that's why I said earlier on, remember the analogy I was giving you about evil proliferating in the dark and mischief operating best in the shadows. The only way you can do if you are a decent person is to try and bring light to this. And usually a thief will be caught when there is light. You know, we can't play by the same rules. If Honorable Mwitwa, who said loudly, he was the headlines. So again, I'm not giving an opinion. Honorable Mwitwa, unless he says that he was misquoted, but Honorable Mwitwa went on one of the TVs, he was, I think, speaking in Mazabuka, in which he said, if the opposition managed to come together, we will play our Mingalato. That is a fact, he said that. So if Honorable Mwitwa, the UPND and HH wants to play Mingalato, going to Choma and boasting that, oh, this constitution, I used Mingalato. If that is the standard of HH, if that is the standard of the UPND, I don't want it to be the standard for the wars of Fourth Republic. We want a Fourth Republic by which people compete fairly and win fairly. I will not break the rules because somebody else is breaking the rules. And I think that in a battle between good and evil, if evil is prepared to play correctly, if good is prepared to play correctly, we will win. I have given a quotation here of Martin Luther King. He said, all of this evil that is going on in the United States in regard to segregation, racial segregation and denial of civil rights, it is not because the bad people outweigh the good people. It is because the good people who are in the majority choose not to come out and fight the minority who are in the bad people. When the good decides to come and fight, we will win. So I don't want, and I would not recommend that we get involved in. All we have to do is find a way of protecting our vote. And that is why I'm saying, because we know that there's been a declaration both by the president and the Cornelius Mwitwa that they will do Mingalato. We have to be ready for it. So if for argument's sake we all say, oh, let us support Muhabi Lungu to be the main candidate, we should also make sure that there is another candidate, just in case they grab Muhabi Lungu at the last minute to say, no, you said HH was doing Mingalato, and they lock me up like they have done my good friend Nakachinda. To punish him because he's a Southern, and to ensure that if Southerners come out to be strong, they push you and show you that they will deal you out, so that no Southerners tomorrow is going to come out. And if they're going to come and arrest me for that, if I'm Muhabi Lungu, we must make sure that there is a second.
Mr. Nakachinda got imprisoned for making allegations that he couldn't prove.
No, that, again.
So to call that a punishment because...
You must invite me. You must invite me. If I will be more than happy to come and discuss Mr. Nakachinda's case here and elucidate it the way I've elucidated this. Okay? It is not fair. What has happened to Mr. Nakachinda is not fair. It is not fair. Mr. Nakachinda is not in jail because he did something that any other person has done. The reason why Mr. Nakachinda was jailed because he said something which other people in the UPND have said, and they've never been taken to court. Mr. Nakachinda is suffering in that court because justice is not fair in this country. And you cannot arrest me for saying that justice is not fair, because there are people who have said worse things than what Mr. Nakachinda has said and are not in jail. And we, as a Zambian people, as I said, we must learn to be fair. You know, even all those members of the UPND who are seeing Mr. Nakashinda languishing in there for saying something to do with the Kachema or whatever, and yet other people have said terrible things and they are not in jail, is not fair. It is just not fair. So at another opportunity, maybe let us discuss. We come and discuss, Mr. Nakandisha said.
But quickly, if someone alleges that the president met with judges and they can't prove that, but why wouldn't that person be locked up if they can't prove that these meetings happened?
Yeah, but this is what I'm saying, that, you know...
So how would you say that's unfair?
This is what I'm saying, Chisha, that in order for us to explore this matter carefully, maybe let us have a specific program to deal with the issue of Mr. Nakashinda. And I will prove to you that there is, again, more than sufficient both circumstantial evidence and in things of matters of the law which point to the fact that Mr. Nakashinda has been wrongfully convicted. And he is appealing those decisions, okay, to the High Court. And it is not only on the issue of the fact that he said he was meeting judges. Again, as I said to you, there are people who have said worse things and accused other people worse than this. I can tell you and I can bring you, this is what I'm saying, let's have a show where I can bring to you things that HH said about Manawasa, about Rupia Banda, about Michael Sato, which are worse than this issue. And nobody took him to court for it. Okay? So justice must be seen to be fair. It must be seen to be fair. You can't just say, this one said this. But what about all these other people who said these things? You know? What about all these other things that made allegations? You can't. All of us will only be fair. I was arrested once, my brother, for treason and murder. And I was brought to the court under Justice Chitenge. And as I sat there in the court, I knew that because I didn't kill anyone, and I knew that because I didn't, I was not part of any conspiracy to overthrow the government, and I knew Judge Chitenge being a man of integrity and had made other decisions, I knew I was going to go home at some point. I knew that the state was going to probably delay it as much as possible, maybe to ensure that we're in jail until after the elections of the boycott, but I knew I had faith in the judicial system. I don't have faith in the judicial system. And you can't fault me for not having faith in the judicial system. Because the decisions which have been made, especially as it regards political parties, have been wanting. And I have a right to say this is not correct. So I repeat, Nakashinda is in jail there because he's being punished. You know, I am speculating that one of the reasons in which he's being punished is because he's a Southerner who has aligned himself with people who they don't want Southerners to align with, which is not correct. I know many Southerners myself, including my wife and my children I have raised, who have got no physical connection to me, but Anyangas and whatever from the Southern Province. I am part of the family of the Southern Province. I know how difficult it is for Southerners to say the truth, because some of them are told, you are betraying your tribe. We have come to a point in this country where people can say such things. You are betraying your tribe. One of the issues that is at stake in this issue to do with the Zambia We Want is actually an ethnic issue. I have not brought it to the fore. Maybe I'll bring it tomorrow when I'm on another station dealing with this matter, where I hope to conclude it in another 2 days as I stop. I know that one of the issues here is an issue to do with ethnicity. Mr. Kanema from the Northwestern Province is the vice chair. There was George Chulumanda who stood for that position from Porokoso. And when Mr. Kanema lost the election of Secretary General to me, all of us agreed that we needed to have a party which was tribally balanced. Mr. Kanema would not have won vice chair if George Chulumanda had decided to stay. George Chulumanda decided to withdraw from that position and campaigned against himself, because at that point he was already on the ballot. He went to campaign. I went to campaign for Mr. Kanema so that we could have a person in the hierarchy of the party which was from another province apart from East and Northern. After we had these elections, we have got about 30 vacancies in the Zambia We Want. I have called colleagues of mine from Northwestern Province and from Southern Province, that I know are active in the political arena. I have said to them, colleagues, here you have a party which is beautiful. Yeah? Here you have a party which has got rules and regulations. Be a part of it. Come and join us. There are many positions so that we have everybody from north to east, from south to west within the political party. I've called friends. Oh, we'll consult. I said, we cannot discover a person from Southern Province to give a position. Now, we have a youth in Woza, Fourth Republic, Musanje, a young man, brilliant young man, from the Southern Province. And we are happy. And we didn't put them because he doesn't have the talent. We want to reflect the country. But if Southerners will say, no, us will just stay in UPND, then who do we put? If people from Northwestern are going to decide that the only political party we can involve in is that one and not that one, then how do we balance? So these issues are not being discussed. And one of the reasons that there are very few people who are prepared to discuss them, because the UPND have made it clear that if you misstep, they'll come to you and charge you with the, what are they calling it? Hate crime. You know?
Mr. Lungu, we're coming to a close now.
Okay, thanks.
Someone might have been listening to everything and thought there's a lot of confusion in the Zambia We Want party.
There isn't.
What is your guarantee to that person listening out there that this isn't part, the Zambia We Want isn't one of those parties that has a lot of division and there's an end in sight to all this?
There isn't even a beginning to this, Wachisha. Look, the Zambia We Want was launched in July 2024. And you can see that all of this time there has never been such things. The Zambia We Want had an election 6 months ago. And individuals who did not win the positions they wanted, individuals who their president did not win, have been trying to do all sorts of mingalato within the party, and we've managed them. The party has been operating, it has been growing, it has been winning elections. When we went to the Council of Elders facilitated conference, by the way, the Council of Elders is not a political party, as they've said in this letter. And Neil Simutani's Center for Policy Dialogue is not a political party. So we've not joined any political party. When we went there at the conference, initially we were supposed to have 20 delegates from each of the political party. We had 20 delegates from the Zambia We Want at that conference. When the number was reduced to 15 delegates per 7 political parties in order to create rooms for others, we had 15 delegates who were members of the NLC. And in fact, 2 members who have signed this petition, who we put there deliberately because, as I said, we believe in operating in the shadow. 2 of them, one of which deliberately spoiled a vote for Simbao. If those 2 people had actually voted for their presidential candidate in Zambia We Want, who was elected by Zambia We Want, Simbao might even have been number 1 in the first round. But 2 of our own members, we know it, did not vote for Simbao because of this grievance. You can imagine, your party has got a presidential candidate which has now been affirmed for a party. You go to a retreat where there are others, and you, the 2 people, vote for another candidate to spite Simbao. You know? And then you expect us to say, but despite that, we are prepared to sit down with them. If there are council of elders, if there are any people, we will sit down to me. I will turn the other cheek as many times as is possible for me to be able to save this party, because we think it's a good idea. And we said that this party should not be there only for the elections. We want to develop this party even after the elections, so that if by the time maybe I'm 65 or 67 and I think that I'm tired, I can have a party to leave behind for other young people like Musanje and Rio Mufwaya, who is a chairman for youth, and Indonga, who's chairman for SMEs in the Zambia We Want, so that they can carry this party forward. Not that when I leave, we kill it because I didn't get a position.
Mr. Lungu, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you very much, Shish. I'm very grateful, and I'm very grateful to the station for giving me this opportunity. I'm really grateful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Muhabi Lungu is Secretary General of the Zambia We Want Party. Thank you very much for listening to The Hot Seat. Look out for the next edition of The Hot Seat on Thursday with my colleague, Peter Zulu. My name is Chisha Mwambe. I've been your host. Stay tuned to Hot 87.7.
That's all for today. Tune in again next time for another exciting edition of The Hot Seat on Hot FM.